Alright, this is step 1 of the assembly procedure for the sensor module for Holoseat, version 1, Rev 1 of the sensor module. This is for the alpha units. This just covers the first step in the procedure. Please reference the assembly instructions for the full procedure. We need 3 things for the first step in the procedure. One of the actual sensors, the jig, which you can see here, and the TRRS jack on PCB. So, the first sub-step of step 1 is to take the sensor, make sure that it is facing out, and by that I mean that the label is facing towards you. See the label there? This is the wrong side, blank. This is the right side with the label. And the next is to take the jig and the sensor and place the sensor in the slot in the jig with it facing out as previously commented. Now we want to line it up so that we can see the sensor itself in that window, just like that. Now, next we want to take the leads from the sensor while we have it in position here and bend them down. Just like so. Verify that you can still see the sensor through the window. Looks like we can. Get this just a little bit more of a bend so that it's close to making the full turn, and we'll reset it in the jig to verify that we can see it properly. Sorry if I'm being too quiet. It's a little short, so we're going to turn it one more time. Feel free to check this a couple times. This is one of the most essential parts of this sub-assembly process. It's also very difficult working through the camera lens like this, so you should find this a little easier than I am. Seated in there now, and just a little short. And it just shows you why the jig's important. Pushing it down just a little bit more. Don't worry about the pin. pins, we'll straighten them out in the next step here in a second. We want to get this alignment right first. Boom. Back in the jig. Now we're cooking the gas. You can see the sensors clearly lined up in the window. In fact, we can even read the sensor's label. This is good placement. Excellent. Now let's go ahead and fix the pins a little bit. Get ready for the next step, which is to get them into the spots in the PCB that they need to be. But first we need to spread them all back out here. Take them back out of the jig for just a second. The instructions on the wiki don't say to do all this fiddling, but you kind of have to. This is why in the long term we'll be switching to surface mount components for the sensors. But for the alphas, we want people to be able to build them on their own without any fancy equipment besides a soldering iron. So there we go. That's starting to look like something, believe it or not. This guy back in the jig one more time. And I'll point out it's a little bit difficult doing this through the camera's view. But I'm trying to do that so I make sure it stays in frame the whole time. Again, this is actually not as fiddly as it looks like right this minute. There we go. This jig is actually a piece that was built off the same CAD model as the sensor housing. You'll see that later in the instructions. Again, once we're all seated in there, we can even see the sensor writing still, so that's good. Now we're gonna take this bad boy, spread the pins out just a little bit more again. Now, all this is aligned in such a way that the sensor jack, when facing up, that is the direction that we inserted the sensor from, will be correctly set up for inserting into the housing. So now what we just need to do is get all these leads into their pins. I'm sure folks that do more electronics work than I am are probably saying, where is your third hand? And now the trick is to align this with the bottom of the jig. See, there's a little lip on the jig. Just like that. And then spread these pins out, spread these leads out so that it holds its position thusly. If we turn around, we can still see the sensor. So we can remove it, and that is the first step right there. There you go. We're ready to put this thing in some third hands so that we can solder it all up. Might not look like much now, but it's about to be a sensor. for Holoseat.